السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد أما بعد فيا عباد الله ويا خير أمة أخرجت للناس تعملون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب ومن يتوكل على الله فهو حسبه إن الله بالغ أمره قد جعل الله لكل شيء قدرا. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, all praise and thanks is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we ask Him to send His abundant mercy and His infinite blessings upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and upon his family, and upon his companions, and upon all those who follow him with excellence until the day of judgment. Ameen, and may Allah include us among them. And we remind ourselves to have taqwa, to have a consciousness, a fear, a reverence and awe for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all of our actions and all of our thoughts, in all of the things that we intend to do. And we remind ourselves that certain actions that we perform, they may bring us closer and closer to the fires of Jahannam and an eternity of punishment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that and make the fires of Jahannam haram for all of us. Ameen. And that other actions, if we perform them with sincerity, they may bring us closer to entering into the gardens of paradise, Jannat al-Firdaus, and an existence of bliss for all of eternity. May Allah allow all of us to enter into Jannat al-Firdaus. Ameen. Today is a very significant day in the span of the year, in the Muslim calendar. We just passed the beginning of the year, the start of the new year rather, with the first day of Muharram. And now we have reached the 10th day, which is known as the day of Ashura. This is a significant day not just for us as Muslims, but it's been a significant day for many of the people, many of the nations that came before us. As the hadith mentions that this is the day in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved Musa alayhi salam and the Bani Israel from being annihilated at the hands of Fir'aun. And this is the day that they brought themselves to a place of no return, to the shores of the ocean. And that in that place where it seemed as if nothing could save them, there was no hope left, there was nowhere to run, 600,000 Bani Israel being pursued by we don't even know how many of the armies of Fir'aun. The armies of Fir'aun, the richest nation on earth at that time, the superpower of that time, who had millions upon millions of soldiers, who were so fabulously wealthy, who were so used to living in luxury, on chariots adorned with gold and weapons of gold, chasing this group of people. And at that final moment where it seemed like this is it, this is the end of the line, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired Musa alayhi salam. He inspired him to call out Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, the two names that he used on that day, to beseech Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah told him, strike your staff upon the waters. And as he did, the waters themselves start to split. And hope comes where there's no hope. And an exit comes where there's nowhere to go. And the Bani Israel are able to pass through that body of water. So this is the day in which this happened. This is a significant day. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Medina, he saw the Bani Israel of Medina celebrating this day. And by the way, this corresponds perfectly to a day in the Jewish calendar. This is actually what in that time, when the lunar calendars of all the Arabs were synced and the Jewish calendar was synced. This is the 10th day of the Jewish month of Tishri', which is called Yom Kippur. They still celebrate it to this day, although they changed the day because they standardized it. They made it a solar calendar. But this is the day of Yom Kippur for the Jews, which is the 10th day of the new year, which starts with Rosh Hashanah. Right? So he came on that, he saw this happening in Medina. He saw these 10 days of festivities that the Jews had and repentance and atonement. And he said, why are you fasting this day? This used to be a day of fasting for the Jews. And he said, why are you fasting this day? And they said, this is the day in which Musa alayhi salam was saved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in which he was saved from the evil of Fir'aun. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I am closer to Musa than you were. I, being a prophet, have more haqq to Musa than you do. And so in that early time, this is before Ramadan had become fard upon the Muslims, the Prophet ﷺ told his companions, we all will fast on this day as well to commemorate this event. After Ramadan became legislated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the option was then given. Some of the companions would fast, some of them would not fast. Sometimes, some years, Rasulullah ﷺ would fast this day, some years he would not fast this day. It was made optional. It was superseded by Ramadan. And of course, many of us still fast to this day. This is one of the great days of Allah. As the Quran says, the ayyam of Allah. This is one of these great days that we think and we remember the greatness and the legacy of the prophets. But this is also a day of tragedy. And that's primarily, unfortunately, what I have to focus on. Because as you all know, and I don't want to get into any sectarian kind of talk, but we know that this is also a day in which after Islam, after the guidance of Islam had already come, that terrible things happened on this day as well. And we, unfortunately, as a people, collectively, we tend to have a historic myopia. We don't really learn our history, and the parts of history that we don't like, we like to just brush them under the rug. We don't like to talk about them. And actually, that's not a healthy thing to do. One of the great qualities of Islam is that we don't hide anything. Our scholars took painstaking hours to record things that they disagreed with. So we recorded and preserved theologies, aqidas that are batil, that are not correct. We still recorded them just to understand what they were about. We recorded the beliefs of so many people just so we would have it. We didn't hide anything. We even recorded the ahadith that we knew other people had made up and fabricated them. The ahadith that are mawdu'. We still recorded them. But when it comes to history, and we're talking about history which happens after Islam specifically, after the passing of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and there's this period of turbulence, we like to brush it under the rug and pretend it never happened. That's not healthy. It's not healthy as a community, and it's not healthy for one's iman. We have to address what happened. One of the greatest miracles of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that he brought a people who for generations had been on the brink of war, or rather had been fighting and killing each other for generations, and he brought them together, not even just as friends, but as brothers and sisters. He brought tribes who had had feuds for generations. People who forgot why they were even fighting each other. They just knew if you see a tribesman of this clan or that clan, you kill them on sight. You don't even ask questions. This was the culture of the Arabian Peninsula. As much as we talk about the generosity of the Arabian people, yes, the Arabs have extreme generosity, and I've seen it firsthand, and I've experienced it. But they also had this dark side, where it was kill on sight. if you see that person from that tribe or this person from this tribe, because God knows how many generations back we had a feud with them. Rasulullah ﷺ in a single generation erased all of this. He brought people who had been warring and turned them, as I said, into literally brothers. And the amazing thing about this, and this just confirms the miraculous nature of Rasulullah ﷺ, is that as soon as he passed away, the infighting started again. It's as if the divine protection, the God-given barrier in the hearts of people, the removal of that rancor and envy and jealousy, it's as if as soon as Rasulullah ﷺ died, that divine aid went with it. And so right away you have conflict. And it starts off minor. And it gets bigger. And it gets bigger. And it gets bigger successively through each of the khulafa. The conflicts become bigger and bigger and bigger. And we have to address this. We can't hide it. It starts with Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu being assassinated by a non-Muslim. It goes to Uthman radiallahu anhu being assassinated by a Muslim. And then it goes to, in the time of Sayyidina Ali, all out war between the Sahaba. That really happened. We can't hide that fact. It happened. We're not here to judge them, because Allah knows best what their intentions were. Each of them thought they were doing the right thing. Each of them had a valid viewpoint. Sometimes people who love each other, they do get into conflicts. And then it continued until the events of the day of Ashura. And on this day, what happened? And I don't want anyone come to me after the khutbah and say, no, Shaykh, you're telling the opinion of this group, you're giving the opinion of that group, you're giving the Shia opinion, you're giving the this opinion, you're giving the that opinion. This isn't all of our history books. I'll show you all of them. The beloved grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Hussein as-Sibt. Hussein, who is one of the two leaders of the youth of Jannah. Hussein, who by the word of his grandfather, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, is in Jannah, for sure. Not as only is he in Jannah, he's a leader in Jannah. He and his brother Hassan. Hussein, who, as they said, resembled his grandfather. They said he was like a mixture of his grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his father Ali. They said he looked like them. He resembled them so much. Hussein, who as a child, and we tell this narration so often, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be praying, he would climb on his back. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would extend his sajda so that Hussein could play on his back. This beautiful man, the direct student of his father Ali, the gate to the city of knowledge, one of the greatest Muslims to ever walk the earth, we have to acknowledge what happened. And then the fact is that he was killed by Muslim hands in Muslim lands. Not only was he killed, His body was mutilated. He was beheaded. He was beheaded, and the man who beheaded him then poked his lips with his sword tip or his spear. The same lips that Rasulullah ﷺ used to kiss. And his head was dragged to Damascus, and it was put on display. That this is what happens to rebels. This is not a fabricated story. This is not a, this side says this, we don't agree. No, this is real. This happened. We have to acknowledge it. We have to use that to grow. And most importantly, we have to understand why it happened so that you and I don't make the same mistakes again. All of the things that Allah has ordained, His decree, all of the events of history that have happened, they are a lesson for us. There is a hikmah in them for us to learn. And I find it so amazing and compelling. The fact that on this day, we celebrate two completely opposite things. We celebrate the salvation of Bani Israel from the hands of a tyrant, and we commemorate the killing of the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ also by the hands of a tyrant. And in this, there's a lot of lessons for us to learn. Inshallah, in the second half of the khutbah, we'll go over some of those things. أقول ما سمعتم واستغفر الله لي ولكم فيا فوج المستغفرين استغفر الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. عباد الله اتقوا الله. So from this day of dichotomy, this day of bifurcation, where we have so much emotion, we have the happiness that we feel for Nabiullah Musa alayhi salam, Kalimullah, and we have the sadness that we feel for Asibt, the grandson, the direct grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What lessons are there for us to learn from this day? We'll take a lesson from each of these stories. And actually the lesson is related. It all comes together. It's all connected. The lesson is this. If we as an ummah living in the 21st century, whether it's here in Chicago, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in Southeast Asia, whether it's in East Africa or West Africa, wherever we are, we as an ummah can only be in one of two situations. Okay? We can only be in one of two situations. Either we as an ummah are united, or we stand apart from one another. That's the only way we can be. We either come together as slaves of the Almighty, of the All-Merciful, ready to serve His will, ready to serve the ummah in general and mankind, ready to do good, ready to command what is good, not just do good, command it, and forbid what is evil, with full tawakkul in Allah. If we come to Allah in this state, then just like what happened to the Bani Israel, Allah will give us openings we could never imagine. When the Bani Israel were coming with Musa, they were saying to him, "Where are you taking us? This is not the road we should take. We should take the land road, that route. We should go around, we should do this, we should go that." But Musa alayhi salam, through his wahi, he knew this is where we have to go. And he brought them to a place where again, they're confused. Why have you brought us to the shores of an ocean? And Allah literally created a road for them in a place where no human being has ever set foot. Allah made for them an opening that they literally could not have conceived of. Never in a million years did they think the ocean itself will split for us to honor our work, to preserve our deen. This is the effect of what? Of unity. But we live in an age in which division is everywhere. Not only is division everywhere, we have imbibed this drink in our heads that I want to be divided. We divide ourselves by social class, by status, by this guy is from this part of the world, he's from that part of the world. And even if we're from the same part of the world, he's from this area and I'm from that area, and he's from this village and I'm from that village. He speaks this language and I speak this language. He likes this food and I like this food. We create our own problem. We create our own division. And when we are divided, when everyone is just looking for their own self-interest and not looking at what is best for the ummah, what is best for the community, what is best for the dunya as a whole, then the other result happens. Where we will lose our best and our brightest at our own hands. We don't need an outside force to come and take care of us. We'll destroy ourselves through disunity, through jealousy, through the love of dunya, through the fear of losing a measly piece of this dunya, then we will destroy ourselves. I'll give one piece of practical advice before we wrap up this khutbah. This disunity, this is a goal of shaitan. This is something shaitan wants. This is something that shaitan has been working on since the birth of Adam alayhi salam. This is something that is part of his plan, that he wants to create and sow discord in our hearts any chance he gets. He wants to make you look down on your Muslim brother or your Muslim sister. He wants to make you feel superior, that I'm better of this, I'm more deserving of this, I'm that. Why does this person have this? Why does this person have that? I deserve better. If you recognize this in your mind, in your soul, know that this is shaitan. Acknowledge it. This is the work of shaitan. He doesn't want you to build close bonds with your Muslim brothers and sisters. He doesn't want you to forgive one another. He doesn't want you to get along. His goal is the destruction of not just this ummah, but of all human society. And unfortunately, we live in a day and age in which we are seeing that. And if I was to tell you what his number one tool is, the number one thing that shaitan uses to achieve his goals, and unfortunately what we willingly give to him, the number one thing you need to control is this. It's your tongue. Imam al-Ghazali tells us 20 of the kaba'ir, of the major sins, come from your tongue alone. Just your tongue. If you can learn to control this, just this, if everyone in this room controlled their tongues, we would see an enormous change overnight within our ummah, within this masjid, and not just the ummah, everywhere. If people controlled their tongues, if we stopped backbiting about each other, and let's be honest, every single one of us backbites. And backbiting, by the way, is not just, I would say it to their face, so it's okay if I say it behind them. No. ذِكْرُكَ أَخَاكَ مَا يَكْرَهُ. Mentioning anything you know your brother would dislike to be mentioned is backbiting. If we could stop our backbiting, if we could stop speaking about things we have no business to speak about. من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعنيه. From among the beautiful traits of Islam is keep out of things that aren't your business. But it's just just a quick text. I didn't do anything that big. You don't know what you did. You don't know the repercussions of what a single sentence can be. Lying. Why do we lie? Rasulullah ﷺ was actually told in the Quran in Surah Al-Qalam to distance himself completely from anyone who's a liar. And the surah doesn't say a Muslim or a non-Muslim. Anyone who lies. Do you want to risk on the day of judgment that you won't be in the zumrah, in the crowd of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because you're a liar now? Do you want to risk that? Just control this. And we can avoid so much disunity, so much disharmony. Today is a great day. We have to remember from this day that life has its ups and its downs. We have to remember from this day that sometimes Allah gives us tawfiq and sometimes He doesn't. And even when He doesn't, it's for the best. We have to remember from this day that every moment of life and history, there's a lesson for us to learn. May Allah allow all of us to learn from the day of Ashura. May Allah allow all of us to not hide from the history of this day and from the history of ourselves, our evil deeds, our bad qualities. Let's not brush them under the rug, but let's confront them, face them, solve them, and grow. May Allah allow all of us to benefit from this day. May Allah allow all of us to live and die upon Islam. May Allah allow all of us to become beautiful Muslims, people of ihsan, people who make the world a better place, not people who spread corruption, not people who spread lies, not people who spread fitna. May Allah allow all of us to walk in the footsteps of Nabiullah Musa alayhi salam, standing up for what is right, standing to face what is wrong and not backing down, not being shy. And the same in the footsteps of Imam al-Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. May Allah allow us to learn from his life, to learn from his legacy, and may we become just as beloved to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as Hussein was to his grandfather. We ask Allah for forgiveness. We ask Allah to guide all of us and to forgive all of us. Any of our loved ones and friends and family who are sick, may Allah give them complete shifa. And any of our family members and friends who have passed away, may Allah have mercy upon them, forgive them of all their sins, and enter them into Jannat al-Firdaus. Ameen, ameen, ameen. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. لبيك اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك وإنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت فلك الحمد ولا ما قضيت ولك الشكر ولا ما أعطيت. نستغفرك ربنا من جميع الذنوب والخطايا ونتوب إليك. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله. استقيموا واستووا للصلاة يرحمني ويرحمكم الله. تراصوا واعتدلوا. صلي صلاة مبدأ. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا. واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها. كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون. ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون. ولا تكونوا كالذين تفرقوا واختلفوا من بعد ما جاءهم البينات وأولئك أولئك لهم عذاب عظيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. اللهم اغفر لنا. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. وأوحينا إلى موسى أن أسر بعبادي إنكم متبعون. فأرسل فرعون في المدائن حاشرين إن هؤلاء لشرذمة قليلون وإنهم لنا لغائظون وإنا لجميع حاذرون. فأخرجناهم من جنات وعيون وكنوز ومقام كريم كذلك وأورثناها بني إسرائيل فأتبعوهم مشرقين. فلما تراءى الجمعان قال أصحاب موسى إنا لمدركون. قال كلا إن معي ربي سيهدين. فأوحينا إلى موسى أن اضرب بعصاك البحر فانفلق فكان كل فرق كالطود العظيم. وأزلفنا ثم الآخرين وأنجينا موسى ومن معه أجمعين ثم أغرقنا الآخرين. إن في ذلك لآية وما كان أكثرهم مؤمنين وإن ربك لهو العزيز الرحيم. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.